Justin Gaethje just sent a shockwave through the entire lightweight division that's going to change everything you thought you knew about the title picture. And honestly, this guy is not playing around anymore, because when asked about giving Topuria an immediate rematch, he completely shut that door in everyone's face and made it absolutely crystal clear that he earned his victory through a dominant performance that was anything but a lucky knockout. Gaethje broke Topuria down systematically and methodically like a chess master, dissecting his opponent's every weakness, and he's refusing to let the former champion waltz back into title contention without proving himself all over again. What makes this situation even more wild is that Gaethje is suggesting Topuria might actually be better served returning to featherweight, because the lightweight division is absolutely stacked with killers like Arman Tsarukyan and Max Holloway, who arguably deserve the next shot way more than a fighter looking for an immediate rematch. The message Gaethje is sending is crystal clear, and it's a message that's going to reverberate throughout the entire sport, because beating someone once does not automatically guarantee you another championship opportunity, and this is the kind of mentality that separates true champions from everyone else in this business.
Ankalaev just dropped a bombshell during his media obligations before UFC Abu Dhabi that has serious implications for Alex Pereira's entire career trajectory, because he's calling for a third fight and he wants it to happen at light heavyweight, where both men have already established themselves as legitimate killers. Ankalaev watched Pereira get absolutely schooled by Stipe Miocic in the heavyweight division, and he immediately recognized that moving up in weight was an incredibly risky proposition that exposed Pereira's physical limitations in ways that nobody really anticipated. What's interesting here is that Ankalaev isn't being critical or dismissive, because he actually respects what Pereira is trying to accomplish by testing himself at heavyweight, but he's also being realistic about the fact that competing against true heavyweight athletes who combine size, speed, and technical excellence is a completely different animal than fighting at 205 pounds. Ankalaev is making a compelling case that Pereira's future success and his best chance at maintaining championship momentum might actually be at light heavyweight, where he's already proven that he can compete with and beat the absolute best the division has to offer. A trilogy between these two fighters would instantly become one of the most anticipated matchups in MMA, because they already have history, and the rubber match could settle their rivalry once and for all, while also propelling one of them back toward another legitimate title run.
Garry stepped right into the crosshairs of the MMA community when he decided to share his personal political opinions during a podcast appearance, and immediately multiple elite fighters responded with absolutely brutal reactions that completely skewered his perspective on women in leadership positions. Josh Hokett didn't hold back for even a second, because he sarcastically questioned whether Garry really believed women possessed qualities like logical decision-making consistency, emotional control, and the ability to remain calm instead of being influenced by their feelings. Hokett's response was dripping with sarcasm as he listed out all these characteristics that he was implying women supposedly lacked, before turning his personal attacks directly toward Garry as both a fighter and a person. The controversy continued escalating as Marvin Vettori jumped into the conversation with another harsh insult directed straight at Garry, while Sean Strickland kept his response beautifully simple by just reposting the clip with a single devastating word that immediately went viral across social media. What's important to understand here is that whether you agree with Garry's opinions or not, the backlash he received from legitimate fighters in the sport shows exactly how divided the MMA community can be on social and political issues, and how quickly things can spiral when fighters decide to jump into controversial conversations publicly.
Conor McGregor's injury recovery prospects are actually more encouraging than many people initially believed, because Dominic Cruz's analysis of the specific nature of the ACL and meniscus tear suggests that recovery is potentially within reach, even for a fighter approaching 40 years old. The mental challenge of returning from serious injury is often underestimated in discussions about comeback attempts, because it requires incredible discipline, motivation, and belief in your ability to return to elite form after spending months in recovery.
McGregor has the resources, the medical team, and the support system necessary to attempt one final comeback, but the question of whether he still has the internal drive and hunger to go through another grueling rehabilitation process remains the real wild card in this entire situation. If McGregor does decide to return, the MMA community will be absolutely captivated by his journey back to the octagon and the potential for another historic comeback story that captures the imagination of combat sports fans around the world. The timeline remains uncertain and the challenges are real, but McGregor has overcome impossible odds before, so dismissing his chances of returning would probably be premature. Paddy Pimblett's interaction with the streamer is actually a perfect microcosm of what modern fame looks like in the UFC era, where fighters can't escape recognition and constantly have to balance their desire for privacy with the reality of being one of the sport's biggest personalities. The streamer wasn't doing anything wrong by approaching Pimblett because he was genuinely excited about meeting one of his favorite fighters, but the situation still highlights the challenge that comes with being incredibly famous and recognizable wherever you go. Pimblett handled the interaction with professionalism and patience, which shows his maturity as a public figure, even when he clearly would have preferred to just enjoy his family time without cameras involved. These kinds of encounters are only going to become more frequent as Pimblett's fame continues to grow, and he'll need to continue finding ways to balance his public persona with his desire to maintain some semblance of privacy in his personal life. The entire situation is actually pretty harmless and serves as a reminder that being famous has legitimate upsides, but also significant downsides that aren't always talked about in the celebratory media narratives around UFC stardom.